Hello everybody, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Maisie and today we are doing my January reading wrap up. You know what? January has actually been a really great start to the year for me. I read 8 books, which is fine. Like, I'm happy with 8. It's not the most I've ever read, but also it's not all about the number you read, it's about the quality. And I feel like I read some really good books in January that I'm excited to talk about. I feel like I've made some good progress with series and things like that. And yeah, I'm excited to get into this wrap up. I'm going to first start with the books that I didn't include or didn't talk about in reading vlogs this month, and then I will go into the ones that I did include in reading vlogs but maybe in a bit less detail. And if you didn't catch the reading vlogs for those books, then I will link them down in the description so you can go and check them out if you want to see me reading the books and hear more of my opinions and thoughts as I go through them. Reading vlogs are all spoiler free as well. So yeah, these books are not in the order that I read them. In fact, the first book that I'm going to speak about is pretty much the last book that I read in January, but let's get into it. Okay, so firstly we have Bonesmith by Nikki Powell-Preto. This was a book that came in one of the Fairly YA book subscription boxes. I can't remember what month it was, October or November I want to say. So yeah, it's got like sprayed edges, it has some cool character artwork. I'm actually really enjoying having my Fairly YA subscription box because it means that I'm getting these books that I otherwise wouldn't probably have picked up, because this book, for example, is not one that I have seen loads of people talk about on BookTube. In fact, I only think I've seen one person talk about it. But as soon as I got it and read the blurb, like, it just sounded so interesting to me. So this book takes place in a fantasy world called the Dominions. Please forgive my pronunciation, by the way, of anything when it comes to fantasy books. Like, I am probably pronouncing everything wrong. So in this world, ghosts are violent and bonesmiths need to sever the ghost from its body in order for them to be like peaceful dead people. Our main character, Ren, is training to become a Valka. Again, I'm sorry for my pronunciation. So a Valka is a type of bonesmith that is basically a warrior. However, she gets sent to the border wall, and this is basically a wall to keep out the undead, where there in the past has been a breach and there are like loads of dangerous and violent undead the other side of the wall. She actually ends up on a rescue mission to rescue a prince, but things don't go as planned and she starts to discover that things aren't as they seem. We have a really interesting fantasy world. We have quite creepy vibes, to be honest, like the undead and ghosts, like it is creepy. It's kind of a bit like zombie vibes, but it's good. And it's unlike anything that I've ever read before. Also, we have a slow burn enemies to lovers romance in this as well. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I will say that I found the world building difficult, especially at first. Like, I wasn't sure what was going on, who was who, the kind of whole history was a bit confusing to me. But that's, I suppose, also because it's like completely different to anything I've ever read. Like, most fantasy books I've read are either like fae or like maybe vampires. So this was completely different and I did really enjoy it. But yeah, it just took me a little while to get my head around it. But saying that, it's a YA book, so the way it's written, it is kind of easy to follow, kind of. Anyway, I ended up really enjoying this. I gave it 4 stars overall. I loved the romance and I'm really excited to see what happens in the second book. This is a duology, I believe. I think there's just going to be 2 books, and yeah, I'm really excited for the second book. I think the duology is called like House of the Dead or something like that. Okay, so the next book that I have to talk about is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Now, this is the second Sarah Adams book I have ever read. Previously, I had read The Cheat Sheet. Yeah, I read The Cheat Sheet by her. I liked it. It was okay, but it wasn't like amazing. So I kind of went into this with the expectations of, I've heard a lot of people really like it, but I also heard that from The Cheat Sheet. So I kind of went in with like mid expectations, thinking it would maybe just be like a palate cleanser 3-star book. Before I get into my thoughts, a little bit of background into what this book is about. So this is a small town romance. We follow Amelia, who is a famous pop singer, and she decides that she basically needs a break from her chaotic life. So she decides to go to Rome, Kentucky for a couple of weeks. Ideally, she would have gone to actual Rome, but she kind of decided on a whim, and yeah, Rome, Kentucky was the closest Rome. But when she gets there, her car breaks down, and Noah, owner of the local pie shop, finds her and basically offers to help her. So that is kind of the setup for this book. We have a broody, grumpy male main character, we have forced proximity, and we have a slow burn romance. And I think that's one of the things that I loved the most about this slow burn romance. Like, I love slow burn, and this one was giving. Just had a great time reading it. I read it so quickly. I mean, I think Sarah Allen's books are all like quite good in terms of length and speed to read. Like, this is literally 300 pages and it just did everything that it needed to do for me. I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, very close to a 5 stars. Like, it just didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling. I think for me it was maybe just lacking that bit of angst that I love. So yeah, but overall loved it and definitely recommend if you just want like a nice, quick, easy romance. It's perfect. Okay, next book is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. So this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, so I'm not gonna describe the plot of this book to you because that would be major spoilers. And also, I'm sure a lot of you know what the Throne of Glass series is and have heard other people talking about it. I kind of really took my time with this series. I was reading 1 or 2 books a month, literally from August, so it's like taken me a long time to get through, but I'm so glad that I took my time, and I'm actually so sad that it's over. I have to say, I loved the first couple of books. Like, I was obsessed with the first couple of books. The middle couple maybe like lost me a little bit. Not lost me, but like they were just more mid. And then Empire of Storms and Kingdom of Ash, phenomenal. Phenomenal. This is an 8-book series, right? The way that Sarah J Maas can like grip you and make you so invested in like so many different romances, it's amazing. Like, normally when I'm reading like a fantasy series or like watching a TV show, there's that like one couple that I'm really here for. Honestly, in this world, in this series, I ship so many couples and I ship them hard. This series was just amazing. I would say it's definitely more of a fantasy series than ACOTAR. Like, ACOTAR kind of seems very firmly a fantasy romance series, and I would still say that this is fantasy romance because there's kind of like a lot of romance in it, but the romance in this is very much a side plot, and yeah, it's definitely more of like a proper fantasy. So it is a YA series as well, but it's not easy. Like, this book is nearly 1,000 pages long. Like, this is a long book and it took me a while to get through, and before this I did the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, which is a lot of book to read those two together. So it's not easy reading, but it's so good. I suppose I should say my rating is 5 stars. I absolutely loved this and I am going to miss that series so much, but I can't wait to start Crescent City now. And yeah, I'm just glad that I've got another series to read. However, I am sad that once I read Crescent City and catch up, I'm gonna have to join the crowd and it will be waiting probably years for a new book to come out by Sarah J Maas. So yeah. Okay, the next book that I want to talk about is Never by Jessa Hastings. So now we are getting into the books that I included in my reading vlogs. As I said, I will link them in the description if you want to check them out, because I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I've already spoken about these books quite a lot. But yeah, spoiler-free reading vlogs will be linked down below. So this is a Peter Pan reimagining. Daphne is the granddaughter of Wendy from Peter Pan. So in this book, it's Daphne's turn to have her adventure with Peter, as it was for the women in the Darling family before her when they were younger. However, when Daphne gets to Neverland, things aren't quite as she expected, of course. So Peter has grown up. He's no longer a boy, but a young man. So if anybody was worried that they were going to be reading a romance about a 13-year-old boy, you're not, don't worry. She also meets Jem Hook, who is Peter's rival and the son of Captain Hook, as we know him from Peter Pan. We have a magical world, a love triangle, and lots of mystery, actually, which I was not expecting. I've said on my channel many times that I love Jessa Hastings' writing. Like, there's just something about her writing that just like sinks into my brain, and the way that she does like inner thoughts and inner monologue, it's just so like pleasing for me to read. I just love it, and it means that I just connect with the characters so much. So I love her writing. However, saying that, the downside of this book for me is that I didn't like the characters. I'm still not convinced that we're supposed to like the characters. I think there's maybe one character that we're supposed to like who I don't really like either. Like, they all just have so many issues. And don't get me wrong, like Magnolia Parks, the characters are so flawed, but like I can love them. In this, I'm struggling. I still really enjoyed this book. Overall, I am giving it 4 stars. I can't wait to see what happens in the next book. There's so much like mystery to be unveiled. Like, I just loved being in this world. I love Jess's writing, and yeah, I enjoyed the love triangle, even if I don't particularly like the characters. Yeah, and also I'm so happy that I can now finally put this on my shelves, because like, this is gorgeous. I need to find a nice way to display it. This might be my favourite book cover ever. So the next book is Before You Knew My Name. So this book follows 2 women in New York. One of these women ends up being the latest unidentified murder victim in New York, and the other woman is the one who finds her. This book tells the story of both of these women leading up to and following the murder. It's actually told from the perspective of the woman who is murdered, but she also narrates our other main character's point of view as well. Anybody who has been watching my videos for a while will know that I have been putting off this book for a long time. Like, this has been on my shelf for years, and I'm so glad that I finally picked it up thanks to it being on my TBR. It didn't take me long to read. It's not a long book. It's like 300 pages, and it was good. However, I settled on 3.5 stars. And I think that's because, for me, I prefer a book that's written in a more suspenseful way. Like, this book is about murder, and I would prefer it to be a bit more suspenseful in terms of the mystery. That's not at all how it's written, and it's not really supposed to. It's not like a big mystery and there's not loads of suspense, basically. It's not a thriller. It kind of like toes the line between just like fiction and mystery, I would say. Like, there is like the mystery element, but it's not, that's not always what you're supposed to be focused on. It's more focused on these 2 women, the things that they have been through, and women as murder victims, like why this woman was murdered. And yeah, I'm glad I read it. I think that I can see why it's like got lots of good praise. I think it's kind of one of those like important books that makes you question roles within society. It makes you question, like, it makes you think about things, and I enjoyed it for that. But yeah, 3.5 stars. So the next book is Final Offer by Lauren Asher, and this is the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. So in this book we follow Cal, who is the 3rd Kane brother, and we also follow Lana. So to gain his part of his grandfather's inheritance, which is basically like from this like Disney empire, Cal needs to return to his grandfather's old lake house, and he needs to live there for I think 6 months, and he needs to sell it. However, when he gets there, Lana is there. He and Lana share a painful past, and this, plus the forced proximity, the like complications of things that are going on in their individual lives, means that we get a really angsty, slow burn, second chance romance, which slow burn and angst, I love. So naturally, I really enjoyed this. I will say it's too long. Off the bat, it's too long. I 100% agree with people that like romance books shouldn't be this long unless it's Magnolia Parks. Like, I'm all for a 1,000 page Magnolia Parks book. This is like nearly 600 pages, and it's also my issue when it comes to the Knock 'Em Out series. Like, those books are too long, this is too long. It just means it like drags in parts. I did actually really enjoy it. It didn't take me long to read. Like, these books are really easy, and actually I gave it 4 stars. I think I would say that it's probably my favourite in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I think that this is probably my favourite. And then Terms and Conditions, which I also gave 4 stars. And then, what's the first one called? The Fine Print. That is my least favourite. I think that's like a 3 star for me. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I finished the series, and I'm really looking forward now to starting her Lakefront Billionaire series. Is that what it's called? Whatever it's called, I'm excited to start her next series. I really enjoy Lauren Asher's books. I've read all of her Dirty Air series, which I loved because I also love F1, and if anyone has any good F1 romance recommendations, please let me know. I enjoyed the Dreamland Billionaire series, and yeah, I'm looking forward to reading her next series. Okay, so the next book is Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, and it follows Winter and Theo. Winter and Theo have a one-night stand, however, things get complicated. If you read the blurb of this book, you will know more than what I've just told you. However, I quite like to go in fairly fairly blind. When I picked this book up, I already knew the main trope, and it actually put me off reading it because it's not a trope that I like. However, considering it's not a trope that I'm not really into, I actually had a good time reading this. And yeah, obviously if you want to look up the trope, you can do. It's kind of like, the reason that I don't like tell people the trope is, even though it's on the blurb and it's kind of like the whole point of the book, the way that it's written, like, it's not right at the start. So I don't know. I'm personally not going to reveal the trope, but yeah. I gave it 3.5 stars overall. It's not my favourite in the series. It's also not my least favourite. It was fine, and that's good because I thought I was going to really hate it. Looking forward to finishing that series soon, hopefully. And then the final book that I have to talk about is Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is the final book in the Natural series. The Natural series is a YA mystery series with like Criminal Minds kind of vibes. As this is the last book, I'm not gonna obviously tell you anything about the plot because that would be spoilers. However, I really liked where this book went. I have to say, like, in terms of the plots of the book, like, this last one was really good. Like, I think everything had kind of been building up to this throughout the series, and yeah, it was really satisfying to see it actually play out and see what had happened and what was gonna happen. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The third book in the series I didn't really like, so I was a bit worried, and that kind of like put me off finishing the series, but I'm glad that I finally did, and I would give Bad Blood 4 stars. So that concludes my wrap up for January. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't got this far, please let me know in the comments what your favourite book was that you read this month, and if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!